gets a couple of hits last night in Tacoma, including a home run as the Rainiers beat Sacramento 8-4. Good to see that. We're back on the show with TJ and Lyle.
That was Taiwan Hill he took one up to right there,
You say that every time a ball goes out there, Chris. I think the viewers know it by now.
I'm just trying to educate them.
With Donovan set to return to the Mariners this week and the trade deadline looming, lots of questions about what to do. All right. TJ, do you believe there's a bat out there for the Mariners that they won't have to overpay for?
Yes. I mean, any one of these rental bats, like the two we talk about, whether or not they actually happen or not, but in theory, they could be available if teams get offered the right package, or Taylor Ward and Seiya Suzuki. You can only offer so much for a rental, and teams can only ask so much for a rental. We saw that last year. People were so worried about all the reports coming out that the Diamondbacks were going to egregiously overcharge everyone for Eugenio Suarez's home run production last year, and at the end, it didn't cost the Mariners pretty much anything. They between Josh Naylor and Gino, they gave up. The best piece they gave up was our guy Brandon Garcia, friend of the podcast, who's been really good for the Diamondbacks in their bullpen. But if you're giving you're giving up one reliever for essentially two rental bats, I think you would do that most days. And I feel like at the most, if the Mariners go out there and they get multiple rental bats, that's about how much it would cost.
And guys, I don't want to go past what we just saw there. I mean, there's a bat that is coming soon. Heck, we spent 3 minutes talking about Rob Refsnyder. Let's talk a little bit about Brendan Donovan. Yes, his stats have not been good with Everett. Had 2 hits for Tacoma last night. He's getting his timing back. What does he mean to this lineup, having him back?
I mean, if he can prove he's healthy and he can prove that he is past the injuries and ready to contribute, he is your table setter at the top of your order. He is the guy that was supposed to put this lineup over the top when the offseason happened and when the trade happened. He is an on-base guy. He's a bat-to-ball guy. Again, he puts up just, I don't mean to sound like a boomer here, but just like quality professional at-bats every time he's up at the plate. And he is a guy that, again, just sets the table for what's supposed to be a really fearsome middle of the order. So if you get Donovan back, it lets Cole Young hit in more of his typical spot out of the bottom of the lineup. Lets Colt Emerson continue to hit out of the bottom of the lineup. And again, it just sets up what can be a really good offense if everybody clicks. There's no guarantee it happens. Donovan's missed a lot of time this year, and it's taken him a while to get back because it is a pretty serious injury he had to go through. But if he can prove he's healthy and if he can get back on the field, if the offense is at its 100th percentile, it means Brendan Donovan is back and he is really contributing because he is, again, the best word to describe him, I'll use it again, he is the table setter.
All right, let's blow through some quick trade possibilities. Trade with the Cubs that's out there is Seiya Suzuki for Luis Castillo, Luke Raley, and a lower-level prospect. Suzuki's a free agent at the end of the season. TJ, when you look at this possible trade, like it or no?
I mean, I would do that in a heartbeat. I don't know how you convince the Cubs to do that because that's a lot of money that they're taking on with Luis Castillo for not only next year, but if they put him in the rotation, which I'm sure they will because they don't have starting pitchers really at all, his option the year after is going to vest and they're going to owe him even more money. So that's why I think I understand you guys throwing Luke Raley in there and a different prospect. But still, I mean, the Cubs are doing incredibly well this season. If they're going to trade for a starting pitcher, it could potentially be higher. But if I'm the Mariners, I'm offering that every single day of the week.
All right, let's go to a possible trade with the Rockies. Lyle, the talk is they could possibly get breakout star Hunter Goodman for Emerson Hancock. Michael Arroyo, who's hitting the ball pretty good with Tacoma right now. Any thoughts on trying to go after Hunter Goodman? Let's start with Lyle, but TJ, love your answer on this too.
I mean, the package seems pretty fair. You're talking about a very controllable starting pitcher and a borderline top 100 prospect who's mashing this year in Arroyo. The issue, I think, is similar to the Cubs trade, and it's, do you get the Rockies to do it? The Rockies are such a weird team. I mean, you never know if they're buying or if they're selling or if they're somewhere in between because they can be pretty unpredictable at all times. Now, maybe with their new front office, they're going to have more of a sense of direction, but Hunter Goodman has 3.5 years of club control, and he is the Rockies' best player. Do you get the Rockies to ship off Hunter Goodman now when he's still got so much time left? I think that would be a hard thing to get the Rockies to part with. Paired with it'd be a hard fit for the Mariners, too. Look, it's a right-handed bat that's a great hitter, but how do you mix him and Cal Raleigh into the fold for the next 3.5 seasons? Is that just your set DH and catcher for the rest of the next half decade? Maybe, but it is two catchers, like true starting catchers on one roster.
And the only role that Hunter Goodman could play on this current version of the Mariners team is if you platoon him at DH with Dom Canzone. And you don't want to trade all of that for a guy who's going to platoon, even though Hunter Goodman can hit both sides. You're not benching Cal Raleigh, not with all the money invested in him and the potential that he turns it around. You've spent too much money on Josh Naylor to teach Hunter Goodman first base and put him over there. So that kind of leaves you with very few options on how to utilize him.
All right, how about a trade with the Mets? The Mariners would acquire Luis Robert and Luke Weaver for Michael Arroyo and a lower-tier prospect. I personally can't stand this idea, but we'll start with you, TJ. Is this something that looks palatable?
You're buying a bounce back for Luis Robert, and you're aiming for this year? Like, if this is a this year kind of trade, then yes. If that's your goal, 2026, then yes. If you put Luis Robert and Michael Arroyo in the same big league lineup, I would still have to imagine that over the final 2 months, Luis Robert would be more productive than Michael Arroyo would. I know Michael Arroyo's hitting in AAA, but all of us could hit in the PCL. So I think if your goal is winning in 2026, then this would be a legit trade to do.
The only thing about this is, and I know options are limited, so you can't really pick and choose all that much on this market, but Luis Robert has not been even a league average hitter since 2023. I mean, you're going on a long time since he's been a truly productive bat, and that doesn't even factor in the injuries and all the strikeouts. So when Paul says he personally can't stand this idea, I'm guessing this is somewhat of where it stems from, and I think I'm with him. Like, you have to at least be open-minded because they need right-handed bats and they need additions to the lineup. But I don't know if the right fit for that is Luis Robert.
Okay, I got to ask you both because the talk's been out there because it's just a sexy name. The Reaper, Mason Miller. We don't know what we're going to get from Matt Brash if he will return. I think the hope is that he returns. You take last night's game, you use all your leverage arms in that game out of the bullpen. What happens in game 2? So there are, I personally think you need a bat. I think there's no question you need a bat if you can find one. There's not a lot out there. But have you, I'm sure you guys have talked about it, about the M's going after a bullpen arm like Miller.
Oh, we talked about it. And
Lyle and I actually look at this differently, funny enough. The idea we've thrown out on our podcast is trading George Kirby for Mason Miller, because that would be the difference maker, right? That's what you can offer that no one else can. There's plenty of other teams out there that could offer a blue chip prospect and try and get Mason Miller in return, like AJ Preller did when he traded for Mason Miller from the A's. So you'd trade a starting pitcher to the Padres and try and get Mason Miller in return. In the regular season, though, which matters in this scenario, because the Mariners are not guaranteed to make the playoffs right now, it's hard for me to see how acquiring a closer who, per the Mariners' philosophy on using their relievers, would only pitch with the lead in the 9th inning, which I think is a terrible way to use Mason Miller. But based on all the evidence we have with Dan Wilson's decision-making, that's the only role Mason Miller would assume if he was going to be in the Mariners' bullpen. I don't see how that's more valuable than a starting pitcher who will make every single start and give you 6 innings. Even like his last start was not good at all. But I think George Kirby's like a 3.5 ERA pitcher for the final 2 months of the season. I think that's more valuable than a closer.
We definitely see this differently, and we have talked about it to answer your guys' question. I see it differently because this is not just a reliever. This is the best one far and away in the entire sport who straight up makes games 8 innings long. Games get shortened when you have Mason Miller. And by the way, on the pitching the 9th inning philosophy, I'm not totally certain that would be the mantra if you got Mason Miller. I think Andres Munoz prefers to just pitch the 9th inning because he's more comfortable in that role. Mason Miller pitches all over the place. Like in the way that I would use a closer, where you don't just use him in the 9th, you use him wherever the highest leverage situation occurs in the game. Mason Miller throws in situations like that plenty. So to hear the idea that you would get 4 chances at a World Series run with Mason Miller on your team, because that's how much club control he has, 3.5 years. Yeah, I would trade a starting pitcher to go get Mason Miller when you've got Kate Anderson and Ryan Sloan waiting in the wings.
All right, real quick, who's on this team? Who's not on this team by the trade deadline next week? Emerson Hancock or Luis Castillo?
Or George Kirby for Mason Miller.
If I'm throwing some odds out there right now, unfortunately, as it breaks my heart to say this because he's been amazing to us, but I don't think Emerson Hancock, if we're picking one, is going to be on this team on Monday afternoon.
That's what it feels like, and that sucks because we love Emerson. He's the absolute man, but it doesn't feel like there's much of a market for Luis Castillo for the Mariners. It doesn't feel like teams are biting, and they also know they could probably get a decent return back for Hancock. So it's feeling like that's going to be the move ahead of the deadline.